And I want to stress the importance again of aligning to what you want and getting clear on it. Like I heard you say, like, yo, I had an impulse to go to Kosovo. You met obstacles, right? So, like, for example, 5 hours to this place. One cat's like, you can't go here, go over here. Go over here. Well, all of a sudden, you come, this is not the way. Get your okay.
Yeah. Probably the only guy that didn't know how to do his job. He's like,
and look at that,
go
bro.
out there.
Look at that.
Get out of here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but like, and people listening, just notice this, right? And come back to what we were talking about, how doors will open once you know, like, hey, this is where I want to go. Things will open, and like you were talking about the spirit guardians, like, hey, I got my guy Brian. He's gonna be going to Kosovo. He's probably gonna meet some resistance. You got somebody down there? Yeah, man, I got somebody. Don't worry, man. I'm gonna have somebody tell him to go this way, and then blah blah blah. And then he's gonna have to go to this hostel. I got you covered. Okay, guy. Here you go. What is up, party people? Yeah, you know who this is, don't you? You know who this is. Brian and Paul in the building, baby.
Back again.
Back
Can't
again.
Can't get rid of us, man.
No, bro. Nah, no way in hell to get rid of us. That shit ain't happening. B, how you doing today?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. At 9 o'clock in the morning, we started. We're doubling up our episodes during the week. You know, trying to get an extra one in. You know, and just keep grinding it out, man. I love it, man. Love it. That means we got to study and learn more twice a week now instead of once a week. You know?
Yeah. Hey, yes, indeed. And listen, you know who's benefiting? All of us. Hey, all of us, man. Because this education, like, I love doing research, and I learn stuff, and it's really cool doing that. I just want to acknowledge this. It's really cool doing this with you, because I know I'm not the only person that can go down a rabbit hole, and we can go down there and we can come back out with some gems.
Yeah.
I think we can dig that, bro, because you know a lot of people can go down a rabbit hole, and it's just like, somebody help me! I can't get out! I can't get out! Help!
Yeah, I go deep sometimes, and I'm like, man, all right, how the fuck do I get back up?
I know, dude. So
I'm like, oh, I never heard of this. I never heard of this. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then, like, you know, next thing I know, I'm on a totally different topic than when I started with. And I'm like, all right, let's reel it back in, man.
Let's come back in, like, come on, baby. And you know, this is the beautiful thing about that information slide, I call it, right? It's like one bit of information, especially as I'm learning, as I'm studying stuff, right, B? And you and I were talking about this before. It's like, if I'm studying something, if I see a word I don't know, okay, I'm looking at that word. What's the root? And then a concept, I'm like, wait, hold up. I don't get it. Let me look into that. 3 hours later, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go to bed. So, yeah. And dude, it's crazy because the topic we're covering today is one of those topics where I can go on an information slide, bro. So, B, you want to tell them what we're talking about today in this episode, bro?
The power of imagination. I love this topic. You know, I love it because a lot of people, I'm really trying to like drive this point across. We've had another episode about this where a lot of people, they're just like, they don't see beyond the physical plane. Like they don't understand, like they think this is like woo woo and like, oh yeah, just like, wishing and praying and like blah, blah, blah. But it breaks down to like science. If you really study like the especially like, what's the quantum physics and getting deeper into physics and understanding, like, we were talking about before this during the pregame, like Rosicrucian spirituality and methods that they used back in the day, and how much more in tune they were with the spirit world than we are now, and how they used all these practices, and we just basically we forgot about them. So I love this topic, and I apply this to my lifestyle religiously, no pun intended, for the last probably a good 2-3 years. And I've seen amazing things happen with the people around me and myself. And that's one of my things. I just want to share this with everyone. I wish everyone took this practice of using imagination and visualization and, creating the life that they not only should have, but they deserve,
Dude, so what do you think happened to our power of imagination? Oh, and actually, hold on, before we get into that, I just want to, because you know how I am about words. Mm-hmm. So I just want to put in the definition of imagination: the faculty or action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to be senses. The ability of the mind to be creative or resourceful, a part of the mind that imagines things. Imaginary is the Latin version. Picture to oneself. Okay. This is big. So I just want to put that out there so we have a foundation. B. Coming back to the question, what do you think has happened, or what do you think is going on with people's imagination as a society, man? What do you think it is right now?
We're not in tune with higher realms, and because of that, we become more ego-based around us. We become more. We were talking about this pregame too. Like most people, they just look at it like the physical realms. They don't look at all the other realms that are around us. Yeah. And the reality is, we see 0.003% of what is actually happening around us, and that small percentage that we see is just the physical realm. I also think a lot of people, most people, including most scientists, they still believe in this Newtonian worldview that suggests that humans exist within just the physical realm, right, governed by certain laws like gravity and thermodynamics, portraying the universe as almost like a separate autonomous entity. Yeah. But quantum physics, which I think it's been around almost 70, 80 years now, challenges this perspective, which echoes a lot of spiritual teachings. Yeah. So like we were talking about before, again pregame, like Hermes, the guy that created Trismegistus. Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name.
All good, bro.
So he was a sage. Yeah, he was a sage back then. Even if you don't know who Hermes is by name, but you've heard of the saying, "As above, so below, so below, so above," which basically what he was saying is that our whole world is a holographic matrix, right? It's a reflective surface mirroring the conscious that we cast upon it. And quantum physics 100% agrees with this ancient wisdom. They believe that reality isn't a standalone structure, but shaped by how the observer's consciousness out there. And this thought process, it entertains the concept of a multi-universe and infinite timelines, while suggesting that your perception is significantly influenced by the manifestation of your reality. So I mean, I 100%. There's so many more spiritual gurus out there that say the same exact thing, just different. Yeah. And I believe a lot of the religions and the gurus that started these religions, they're saying the same thing. Yeah. Dude, if you just look at the Bible, and it's all sprinkled out there, it's all sprinkled within it, and it is universal. They knew it. They knew back in the day, and we just become so detached to it because we're so out of tune with ourselves for whatever reason.
Bro, man, you said it. We're out of tune with ourselves. By the way, check out the frequency episode. Mm-hmm. We're out of tune, and it's very fascinating to notice how people's ability to imagine has decreased. And you bring up something, and I'm surprised I haven't brought this book up to you before, but this really hit me when I read this book way back in the day called The Holographic Universe. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes. Who wrote that? I forgot who wrote that. I want to say I started diving into it.
Holographic I forget who it is, but you know
I read
what?
some stuff on Greg Braden, and he talked about it. Greg Braden has a book called The Divine Matrix, and I think he talked about a holographic, but I forgot who the author was.
Yeah. Michael Talbot. Michael Talbot was the author. So I remember reading about this, and they talked about how, and you and I talked about this before, how we fail to see everything. So what we see is basically a construct of what we've created in our mind. So to give you an example, one of the things I've been geeking out lately is storytelling and the hippocampus, right? So the hippocampus is our brain's natural storyteller. We get segments from an experience. When there's spaces in the segment, the brain's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Fill in the blanks. So it's going to fill in stuff, put stuff in, and have us think that this is what it is, when in reality, it's nowhere near it. So when we start to have this power of imagination, or the power to get creative, like, hey, imagine, like, it's interesting. Whenever I tell people, hey, imagine this, like when I'm doing meditations, some people are like, yo, I just have problems imagining. Tell me about that. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, well, I just don't, I'm unfamiliar with how to do this. Or they have something some story that they believe. And then as soon as they're able to make up a story, like, well, how would you like that to go? How could this go? Now all of a sudden, you're starting to create this in your brainwaves, in these quantum mechanics, to create a different realm. Because our brain is like, it has no idea we're out here. It's like, hey, just do. Like, it senses. So if we're creating something, then all of a sudden we could be like, oh yeah, I am that. It's fascinating. And I think it's important that as a culture, we start really diving into this. So let's now that we got like this, I want to give props to Neville Goddard, man. Because this dude is one of the originals, man. Yeah. So what was, like, I got to know, bro, and I'll share. What was your first experience like with Neville Goddard, bro? Like with hearing one of his teachings or recordings? Can you remember what that was like for you?
Experience, man. I heard about him, I think, through maybe it was Napoleon Hill, and he was basically like, they were calling him like the godfather of this, right? So yeah, he was very big into like so in one of his books, like, it's called Thinking Fourth Dimensionally. Great book, by the way. It suggests that our fourth dimension serves as a source of our three-dimensional existence, right? And it houses an endless array of life possibilities. So anything that you can imagine yourself being, doing, whatever, seeing, it's already exists. And it's almost like it's all out there. And also the opposite spectrum. If you don't see yourself like, having this or lack of this or having scarcity of this, all possibilities are out there. And whatever deep down you feel gives that certain frequency or that energy to grab one of these possibilities out there. So for me, it's like he made it very clear, like, it's there. It's there for your taking. I mean, it's not like you just think about it and it's going to come to you. That's wishing. That's what basically praying is. But you got to put yourself, imagine yourself having this, and do action all the time to get to this point. And it's there. It's all there. So a lot of people, they have this feeling of scarcity, or they have this emotion that, like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve this. It's all bullshit. But that's what you're gonna get, and you show me somebody that that had a rough life. I'll show you somebody that is not in tune with the reality of what you're meant to be, the purpose of you putting on this planet. You're not in tuned. We're all pieces of God. We all come from the same source as God. We all are God. And we have the possible, like, everyone's like, what can God do? God can do everything. Well, why can't we do everything? We're so disconnected. We're just so disconnected. And like I said, this is one of the reasons I love talking about this, because I hope, one or two people out there, like, a spark goes off and, they start going down this rabbit hole of what we are. And we were having this another conversation pregame too. Is like we were just talking about before, like, you know, we see 0.003% of what's actually in our physical reality. So I was like, imagine right now, like you can see 100% of everything. You know, we would be, you wouldn't be able to, I don't think we'd be able to see it or flesh.
Nah, definitely not. Definitely not.
It'd be like lost in you know, the vision. But you would see, like for us, we would see a hyperbola of like spinning vortexes going around with a core in the middle. We would just be a huge ball of energy on a level like that. Even, I mean, like research has shown, like on a microscopic level, we're just vibrating energy. So if we could see 100% of everything that's going on around us, we would just be this huge ball of potential, this huge ball of love. With, you know, I think potential is the key word to have whatever we want. And if we can see that, we wouldn't give two shits about your everyday struggles or your everyday worries. Like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, blah, 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 blah. We would just be like, we have so much power that's in us to create and manifest anything that we want, you know?
Dude, all right, man. So, wow, dude. Okay. So where
do we go with this?
Bruh, well, okay, I'll tell you. So I want to come back to this. I want to start with the potential. Now I'm going to come back to the Neville Goddard piece. But I think it's really important what you say about the endless possibilities that we have, right? And it's very interesting because I noticed in Brian does notes. I have notes, and like I like Brian's notes because I'm like, oh, that's dope. That's fresh. And you talked about the Kabbalion, again, Hermes Trismegistus, who wrote this, and he had the concept of mentalism, like all is mind. And it's fascinating. I remember when I first read the Kabbalion, I read that chapter repeatedly. I stayed on that chapter for a while because it almost became, it was overwhelming to me at first, Brian.
Sure.
Because, yeah, dude, that's why I want to address this, because it can be it's endless possibilities. And I want to come back to a word I heard you say about deciding what you want. And that stems into my experience with Neville Goddard, because it was very similar to how you got introduced to him. Like I was watching a lot of Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, and then I would see like Abraham Hicks, and then I would see this Neville Goddard dude. And I was like, let me check on this. And I remember being blown away by just how he described, how he spoke about things, how he educated. I was looking up online about this dude. This quote, I'm going to put this quote right here at the bottom. I love what he said here. Change the conception of yourself. You will automatically change the world in which you live. And I love what he said this and what this quote. And the other piece of this is, what kind of world do you want to be in? I think when it comes to the power of imagination, it's also, I think it's also driven by what do you want, because you can get there. And I think that there can be a big confusion. Like, you know, when Brian and I first got on, like I was in a cranky fucking mood because like I got some stuff going on. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in another episode. But like part of it, I think, Brian, was that in this situation I'm in, I have yet to know what I want as the outcome, because I'd be good with both outcomes, right? So it's like, well, can I have it all? Maybe. Yeah. But like, that's where the frustration can come. And I noticed, like I was telling Brian, like I was just sitting with it. I noticed it's so much easier for me to just be like, well, whatever anybody else wants.
Yeah.
And that, just even saying that, people, please understand, by you even saying that, you are energetically bringing in a whole ton of stuff to you.
Yeah. That
may be completely out of alignment, and that in itself could bring things like anxiety, depression, like I don't know where I want to go. All these types of things. I said anxiety, just low self-worth, all these things, because you're bringing in stuff that you have yet to determine what you want. And this is the power of that mental capacity, the part where we don't see everything because we limit ourselves, right? It's like we have this limitation. It's like, even like I've been getting on people about saying I don't know. Like, stop saying that. Like, say you have yet to know, or if you're lying to yourself and you really do know, and you're like, I don't know if I want to tell this person, just say that. Like, I know, and I'm unready to tell you, whatever. But the thing is, as soon as you say I don't know, you're limiting your ability to imagine.
Yeah.
If you're saying I have yet to know, you're leaving your brain, your capacities wide open to create a reality. But most people fail to see that, man. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
I'm curious, man. Like, oh, you had some. I had a question for you. But
No, it's all right. Yeah, I'm just like everything you're saying is like ooh.
Yeah.
Conversation. No, I would just say like, I was thinking like, yeah, we all. I mean, if everything is energy, we all have these like huge antennas on our head.
Yes,
and
man.
If you had the mentality of like, or your way of thinking is like, yeah, whatever happens. The universe can be like, all right, I'll give you whatever you want, as you wish, and all of a sudden, like, it's like, we use this analogy before. It's like you're hungry and you go to a restaurant and the waiter's like, what do you want? You'd be like, oh, food, give me anything. You might be happy with some of the things you get, might be like, oh, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever tried. So you gotta be very specific on what you want.
Yeah, man.
What you want.
And let's do it. And that, listen, people, we're telling you this, right? Because we want you to benefit from this. And you getting specific on what you want is going to take effort. Okay? Yeah. Because listen, in my judgment, there are collective wants that will sweep your ass in if you fail to know what you want. So like if you know what you want, you're not gonna get swept up in like, yo, is that the latest electric car?
Yeah.
No, I want that. Do you really? You have a place to charge it? No, then what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, but I think, and there's
I think like when we do coaching, first thing I always ask is, like it sounds cliche and like, what's your why? Like, what's your like what are you doing here? I want to lose like 10 pounds. I'm like, no, it's not really the reason you want to be here. Like, what's the reason? Like, what's your why? Like, what's your purpose? What do you? And like one of the things I got was from like Paul Chek was like, he always asked people like, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember you for? And the reason that's important is because you need to figure out what's more important than yourself. What do you want to leave behind to humanity that's more important than actually yourself? And for you to do that, you need to have an amazing, abundant amount of energy. And that'll make your decisions easier. So what I mean by that, it's like, oh, should I have grilled chicken today, or should I go to, as you would say, let's go to Wendy's, where it has no energy in that food, no life force in that food. So somebody that's on their purpose or on their legacy or working towards that legacy, they're going to want the most high vibration foods and thoughts and people around them. Yeah. And if you don't know what your legacy is, or you don't know what your purpose is, I would say that you don't do enough self-reflection. You don't do enough meditation. You don't do enough imagination. You don't do enough visualization. Because as you start doing this, you're going to realize you're going to have certain impulses. And what I mean by that is like, you might be like, I don't know why, but I need to go to this place. I don't know why, but I need to talk to this person. And then when you do it, you're going to reflect back later and you're going to be like, oh, this person like opened a can of worms for me, or I went to this place and I had like this like deja vu, and like, this is what I want to do now, and it's wild. Like I remember like I was in July, I was going out to the Balkans, which is like the old Yugoslavia. Yeah. And there's one place that the tour wouldn't take me was Kosovo. and I was like, I don't know. I just have an attraction to go there. Like I need to get there. I don't know what it is. And everyone's like, oh, it's so dangerous and blah, 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 blah. Like it's on the news, like people were killed and all this blah, blah, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I need to, So I remember going out there. Yeah, funny story. So like I rented a car through this company, and they were like, one, because basically in Kosovo you have to get like a certain permit to get through the border. So I wound up, long story short, I wound up having a little issue with getting the rent the car. They kind of like, screwed me a little bit, but whatever. You expect that going into like a third world country.
Yep.
So I get to the border of Kosovo, and the guy's like, "Hey, listen, like you don't have the right paperwork." I'm like, "What do you mean I don't have the right paperwork?" He's like, "You got to turn around." I'm like, "You go back to Bulgaria," because I was in the capital of Bulgaria at the time. That's where I rented the car from. It was like a 5-hour trip getting to Kosovo. I'm like, "That's like 5 hours away." He's like, "Yeah, nothing we can do." He's like, "Go to pull over to the side over here, and I'll tell you where you can make a U-turn or whatever like that." I'm like, "Fuck." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So I pull up to the side, and then some guy comes out yelling at me. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to get to Pristina, which is the capital of Kosovo."
Yeah.
He goes, "This is not the right way. You got to go this way." He's like, "Go, go, go." So I was like, "Okay," boom, like flew in there. So I went in there without a stamp. I was there illegally for 40 hours. So I get to my hotel.
I love it, bro.
Yeah, I get to my hotel, and I walk into the hotel. I was like, "Oh, I have a reservation here." And the guy looks at like, "Oh yeah, we double booked you." I'm like, "All right, what does that mean?" He goes, "Yeah, you're no longer have a room here." He's like, "Please leave." Just like, "Please leave." And I'm like, kind of like, okay. I was like, "All right, this is the welcoming party I'm going to get here." So I was like, "All right, at least do me a favor and like, can you show me another like place around here that I can stay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, go up the road and blah, blah." So I went up the road. I found this place. And it was like this woman and this married couple, they just opened this like little boutique, like hostel. And they're like, "Yeah, come on in, blah, blah, blah." Had dinner with them. I had breakfast with them. And they gave me a book I have back on my shelf about like, going into like Hermeticism. And they're like, because I told them, we started getting into like spirituality. And they gave me a book on Hermeticism. And I was like reading it and just fucking like, boom, blew my mind. And it created like, long story short, like my whole point of this story was following your impulses. And now it led me down this rabbit hole. And now I'm starting to get into other topics or other things I want to educate myself based on this book that I think is going to change my lifestyle or change the trajectory of my lifestyle. Like we were talking about pregame, like biogeometry and like Rosicrucian stuff and all this stuff. So if I didn't follow my impulses there, I wouldn't have this trajectory where I want to go now in life. Yeah. And I would kind of be stuck in this thing, and I would have to wait for another impulse. So the more you meditate, basically, the more you use your imagination, everything like that, you quiet the mind and self-reflection. Like you follow these impulses, and there's a reason you have these impulses.
Dude, man, so
long story short.
Yeah, listen, man, you could have made that story longer. I was hanging on every word. So there's a couple of things I heard in what you said, man, and I appreciate what you talk about with the impulse. I'm thinking about something that you read, that you wrote in your notes about the consciousness, and I want to stress the importance again of aligning to what you want and getting clear on it. Like I heard you say, like, "Yo, I had an impulse to go to Kosovo." Kosovo or Kosovo?
Kosovo. Yeah,
Kosovo, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had an impulse. You met obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
Something came and moved you forward, right? So, like, for example, 5 hours to this place. One cat's like, "You can't go here. Go over here. Go over here." Well, all of a sudden, this is not the way. Get your okay.
Yeah. Probably the only guy that didn't know how to do his job. He's like,
and look at that,
go out there.
Look at that.
Get out of here. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but like and people listening, watching, I want you to just check, and you can rewind. Just notice this, right? And come back to what we were talking about, how doors will open once you know, like, hey, this is where I want to go. things will open. And like you were talking about the spirit guardians, like, hey, I got my guy, Brian. He's going to be going to Kosovo. He's probably going to meet some resistance. You got somebody down there? Yeah, man, I got somebody. Don't worry, man. I'm going to have somebody tell him to go this way and then blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to have to go to this hostel. I got you covered. Okay, guy, here you go. Now you get past the first obstacle. You go, oh, we double booked. Get your ass out. Yeah. Oh. Now listen, and then you.
And this guy, and I think about it. That guy that told me I couldn't stay there, he could have pointed me to like 50 different hotels or 50 different hostels to stay at, and he's like, "Go to this one." And I just hung on that hostel, and I went there, and man, it's probably one of the most amazing places I've been as far as like influence on my life. So it was cool. So this is what I'm talking about, man. Like this is why this is also important, because as soon as I lock into the power of imagination and I can imagine what I'm wanting, following the impulses, am I going to meet resistance? Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to meet resistance.
Journey, man.
That's it, bro. And listen, let me tell you, once I was cranky this morning. I think it was just like a little sleep and also some other shit. But like, I recognized like last night when I was in that space and just sitting with it, like the things that I want, like for me to get there, there's going to be trials and tribulations. These are my practices on how I manage and navigate it. Because like, listen, when I'm imagining things, like when I'm imagining, okay, this is what I want my life to look like. This is so crazy. It's coming up. One of the things I recognize in meditation is let go of the how. That's one of my things, right? It's like I'll have an imagination. I'll have something in my imagination, Brian. Then my analytical mind goes to like, well, how is that going to happen? I don't know if that's the voice, but it's just like, it's some voice like that. Like, let go of the how. Follow the impulse, which is what you did. And I think this is important for people to recognize. As soon as you lock into that imagination, we're free of saying your life is going to be like going down the yellow brick road. Hell, even Dorothy, when she went down the yellow brick road, had obstacles she had to figure out in her journey. Yeah.
There was a guy, I have like 4 of his books back there. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but he basically says the same exact thing, but the analogy that he uses, like, all right, figure out exactly what you want. And it's almost like you're getting in your car, you take the navigation, you put the end address in there.
Yeah.
Now, okay, maybe just say we're going down to Florida. It's good. 15 hours down there. We have the end navigation. You don't care what route it takes you as long as you get to the end point. So if you pull up to a detour, the thing is just going to reroute you. Don't worry about all the stuff in the middle. Just keep your foot on the gas, keep your eyes open. Hands at 10 and 2 or whatever and just
wherever
keep going.
Yep.
Stop. It'll always reroute you. You're never gonna have a perfect route, and I really truly believe you're on the right path when you do have obstacles towards that. Because in order to be a master at something, you have to go through the trials and tribulations of the path that is going to get you to your end result. You have to. If anything in life comes too easy, it wasn't worth it. It's not worth it. You don't learn anything, man, and you don't bring that over to your next life. You don't bring any. It doesn't make you any. Better or more of a master at your craft by having something easily handed to you. You learn through the, like I said, the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, forged in the fire, bro. Forged in the fire, bro. That's an important piece of this. And when Neville Goddard, hearing Neville Goddard talk about these types of things like imagination and like changing your life, one of the tougher concepts for me to not understand, but to grasp is that whatever I'm putting out there is going to come back. Mm-hmm. It's a reflection. So it's a gift it's a gift in all ways, because first of all, it gets me to be more aware of what I'm putting out there.
Yeah. I
And
think
it's,
one thing you gotta like, and you're not alone. I think a lot of people are like that, and it goes back to one of the first things that we talked about is we're so programmed to believe this Newtonian worldview, which everything just exists on a physical realm, and
yes,
everything and everything is separate. You
yeah,
know, you go before new, you go back in the day, with the mysticisms of like the Kabbalism and what the Rosicrucians are now, and people they knew. They knew. Everyone, like we're talking about this pregame again. Like most people were clairvoyant back then. We were so in tune with ourselves. We were
yes,
we were working the higher realms and the columns and working with the third eye and the brow and the forehead brow and all this other stuff.
yeah.
And we were just so in tune of everything around us. But
Mm,
as we became more egotistical, more individually based, we kind of lost that, and we started again, separating ourselves through that.
mm. Whoa. So
Yeah,
Ryan,
that's,
man, like,
that's
what's that? Yeah, it's a whole, but man, that's
yeah,
another
we're
episode,
about to go
people.
down the rabbit hole. You need to pull me back up.
Yo,
Yeah.
so let's pull back up and let's start to discuss for people that are new to this concept or like have this is the first time that they're hearing about Neville Goddard.
Yeah.
Let's chop it up on what they can begin to do to get more online with their imagination and tap in.
Yeah. I think the
So
first thing for me,
yeah,
like I'm very open to a lot of things. I've seen a lot of stuff, done a lot of psychedelics. So like
yeah,
I have a better from experience, I have a good understanding of like what life is about. I mean, I got a lot to learn still,
yeah, me
but
too.
I'm also very logical in a lot of ways.
Mm,
Like I want to see the science behind it. I would
yeah,
dive into, so if you it's one thing to say imagine, do visualization, it's going to come, blah blah blah. But if you don't understand the science behind it, it's going to be hard for you to believe. And if you don't believe in it, you're not going to get anywhere.
yeah.
One of the best books I ever read was one of my first books I read was Divine Matrix with Greg Braden,
Oh,
and
that's a this dude.
he was like I think he was like a NASA scientist or did something with NASA.
Yeah,
Very, very, very intelligent, very left brain articulate. And then he got into this the spirituality, and he's basically he's combining the old mysticisms, the old religions
right.
of spirituality with science, and he starts talking about quantum physics, and he gives you a lot of like experiments that happened that was proven that there's more to it than the physical realm, like where certain things like like we talked about before, like in other realms like gravity and thermodynamics doesn't work in those realms. It just works on the physical plane.
Right.
So it's interesting. So like for me, it's like once I understood the science and be like, all right, how does your thought create the physical world? And when you learn the science behind it and you learn the mechanics behind it, it's like, oh, okay. So this is real. It's not just somebody, who just says it.
Yeah.
So going deep into a little bit of quantum physics, or just scratching the surface on quantum physics, is
Hmm.
gonna put you down the path of like, okay. Then you start getting into like mysticisms, like Kabbalism and
Yeah.
Neville Goddard and all this other stuff, and then it's
Yeah.
easier to understand. But get the foundation of science first if you're more of a logical thinker,
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah. I dig that. I dig that. I dig that a lot. Like getting the foundation. Uh, my suggestion would be mind your thoughts. Um, I'm just hold on. Let me look at the definition of mind. I said mind, but I want to see definition because something's telling me I really mean mind. Um, like mind, like a verb, the verb to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the verb? Hold on. Either way, mind, yeah, obtain from a mind, dig in, delve into an abundant source to extract something of value. That's what, yes. So My thought is mine, M-I-N-E, your thoughts. What? Yes. Be aware of your thoughts. What is coming forward? So I've been, especially recently with just like stuff happening, it's been very helpful for me to have thought discipline and watching, being mindful of what my mind is doing, what's on my mind, like what are the thoughts. The thing that is important is as you mine, M-I-N-E, your thoughts, you're going through and scouring, okay, this works, this is not going to work. Or like, damn, that's a thought that's always coming up. Like you'll find that by even if it's taken 5 minutes a day to track, like what are the thoughts that are coming into my mind in scope, and be free of attaching to them. So when something comes and you're like, oh man, there's a yellow daffodil, and then you stand on the yellow daffodil, you're basically telling yourself you can get caught on the thought, because that may have nothing to do with what what your imagination where it wants to go. So the key thing is to start to mine your thoughts and notice, like, okay, scrap. This is important. Okay, scrap. That's important. Now you can begin to see and train yourself to have that imagination to start to pull things in towards you. I think people right now, people talk about meditation and they're like quieting the mind. And B, I don't know about you, but I don't want to quiet my mind, man. I want to train it. I want to sharpen it. I want to harness it. Shut it down? Absolutely not, bro. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And most people have this concept like, oh, I can need to quiet the mind. While that has some benefit, yes. But especially if you're looking to really achieve something, or you're looking to get through something, it's important that you're aware of what's coming into your space mentally. Because again, that has impacts on different realms that are beyond the physical. So stick with that, man. Take the meditation. Did we do a podcast on meditation?
Maybe. I'm sure we talked about it.
We're coming up in the 50s. We're coming up on 50 soon, bro. Yes, sir. Actually, if I think about it, this is like, yeah, I forget the number, but yeah, we're very close. We're very close.
Yes, we're getting there. We'll get there.
Yeah,
Plenty more to go,
man. We're just getting started. So like I think that to me, that's the one thing that I would recommend to people if they're really looking to tap into this power of imagination. And also check YouTube, man. Go check Neville Goddard. Follow your instinct, whatever's calling. You see something, you're like, I want to watch it. Click on that mother hoo-ha. Just like how you click on this podcast and you hit like and subscribe.
That's it.
Yeah. There we go, bro. B, let me ask you.
I was reading something the other day, or I was listening to something the other day that's saying, like, kind of going off what you're saying, is 95% of thoughts that we have every single day. Mm-hmm. We have the same thoughts over and over and again. So if you don't like the way your physical plane is, your external environment is, start mining your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Get to the root cause, like, why am I feeling this way, or how do I get rid of these thoughts, or just little by little. You don't have to do everything in one shot, but it's important to realize why you have these negative thoughts. And the reason I say negative is because most thoughts are negative. Yeah. Most thoughts are, not to go too down the rabbit hole, but root chakra issues, things that we developed over our first 7 years of life that we're still holding on to, and, it's just like, it's a lot.
Well, it is a lot. And at the same time, it's like, it's important that people recognize this. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to mind the thoughts, because until someone actually sits and notices the thoughts, they'll fail to recognize, shit, this is what I'm constantly thinking this. Oh shit, that's why my life is where it is. Like how you were talking about the Rosicrucian. if I'm going backwards to see the cause and effect in a different way, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's what.
Yeah.
Oh shit. That's why that's happening? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now all I gotta do is I gotta go with my mental wrenches and Allen wrenches and things and rewire some stuff. Maybe solder a couple wires together differently.
Yeah.
But again, the imagination, unless as an individual controls that, they can run amok. And again, the brain is a powerful tool. It's gonna fill in the blanks to keep you safe. And B, you Brian, you hit on that right there. That stuff that is gonna fill in to keep you safe is based on the experiences you have from root chakra age and childhood age.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things that you may have experienced, like abuse or whatever, and like you have yet to clear that out, guess what? Any blanks or any spaces of uncertainty that you have in your mind space, your hippocampus is just like, hey, fill this in to keep them right where they are so we're good. We stay alive.
That's it. Yeah.
No, we don't make the rules, people. We abide by them right now. We trying to give you the hacks. We're giving you the hacks. All right, man. Hey, man, look, man. Bing, let me ask you, like, what's something you imagine for this podcast?
For this podcast?
Yeah.
For me personally, this is like part of my legacy. This is what I want to leave behind. And listen, the reality is probably like 60 years from now, none of us will be around. We're gonna be incarnated into something else, or chilling up with other souls and guardian angels or whatever it may be. And I want somebody to look back at these podcasts and being like, all right, maybe these people were a little ahead of their times. Again, like like I said between earlier podcasts, like I'm not a guru. I've just spent a lot of time in education, and I've followed some of the best people in the world at what they do. And I try to regurgitate as best I can for people to understand where they're coming from or help these people out. So in no way I'm putting myself up on a pedestal, but just in case somebody misses another guy that taught me something and comes to this podcast and they learn something from it, I just think the more information we have out there, the more it's going to help people.
True words.
But I want people to feel like, this was a podcast where it benefited their life and it benefited their loved ones who are watching this. I don't care if I ever make a single dime. I'm not into this to make money. I have other things on the outside I make money at. I don't care about this. It's all about just spreading, hopefully, wisdom, knowledge in a respectful way that gets across to people. That's my vision. Hey, listen, we get 1 million subscribers one day. Awesome. Cool. Great. If we get 500, awesome, cool. But this is my legacy. This is part of my legacy I want to leave behind. What about you, bud?
Oh man. I'm really feeling what you're saying, bro. So for me, what I imagine for this is very, very much the same. With any of the stuff I put out on YouTube or just out there, like it's so interesting because I never really think about it for the immediate, right? Like for like right now, like it's great, right? I have the same vision. Like when I'm gone, someone's gonna unearth these videos, and by the time, like maybe when we're gone, they'll have holographics so they could put this video, and then all of a sudden we pop in their living room and we're talking to them about this topic, man. And so I envision that this reaches the people that can make influence in the future, or that can have influence in the future, to adjust and shift things. I really believe I envision like me being on this podcast and having these conversations will have some people or someone get that all spark like a transformer, bro. Yeah. And all of a sudden they transform into something different, and they have an impact on their community, their world, to level things up. like I envision, like I imagine that this podcast levels people up, man. And they're just, they start to take care of themselves differently. They start to speak differently. They show up differently. Like, that's what I imagine. And also I imagine that we take the podcast on the road. Like, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Like I'm looking forward to going traveling with you, and we're doing a podcast in Kosovo, back at that hostel with those cats talking about hermeticism. Like, I envision that. Right? We go all over the world, and we're in these unique spots, meeting with shamans. People are seeing videos of us taking plant medicine and like going freaking ascending. Like, that's the image when I close my eyes and I think about, like, when I'm when we're editing, when we're doing these things, these videos, like that's what I see in the future, man. Yeah. And so it is, and so it is, and so it damn well is. Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah. That's me and Brian representing, baby, More Than Black or White Health Podcast. You know what it is, people. You know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Listen, if you found value in this, you made it this far, thank you. If you know someone that can benefit from this information that we're sharing, either in this podcast, in this episode, or another episode, share the video. It costs absolutely nothing. The effort is little, and it may impact. You could be the one that's part of what Brian and I are creating here and how we're outreaching to others. So be that, follow your instinct, hit the like, share. Hey, man, my cousin Trudy, she like this. Go ahead and hook it up. All right.
What up, Trudy?
What up, Trudy? Yeah. Hey, yo, be any last words, man?
No. Let's wrap it up, man.
Wrap that piece up, people. All right, everybody. Peace. Until next time.
Peace. Appreciate you all. Thank you.